What's up, guys? This is Sean and welcome to another episode of the podcast. And today we are doing this episode in the show unit of the makeover guys. So this is a brand new show unit that is in the same building. So for those who are looking for an ID or looking for some designs for your new home or your investment, right, do come and check out the place. I'll leave the link down below. And for this episode, I got in a very special guest. She is Miss Rachel and she's a graduate architect. So the difference between a graduate architect and a professional architect is the difference in completing the professional papers. So she's in progress of that. And today, several reasons I got her in. She's a female architect that runs project in a male-dominated profession. That's number one. And then I want to address the gap in understanding great design as well. A lot of people still focus on the form of the building instead of spatial layouts. And despite you being a professional, there's still a gap as well from the investment point of view. Like, professionals still sometimes purchase the wrong buildings or the wrong projects because it just doesn't make sense financially. And I just want to use this episode, right? It's a rather selfish episode, so I would appreciate if you just stick around, right? And thank you very much. Enjoy the podcast. Hey guys, so in this episode, right, I'm very honored and very happy as well. Finally, not finally, she got engaged. So this is Miss Rachel, and she is a classmate of mine during architectural studies in Taylor's. So we were the pioneer. We were the very first batch of degree. And we even interned in the same architectural office. So welcome, Miss Rachel.
Hi.
So it's very interesting to finally get the point of view of an architect, but you're a architect to be, right?
Graduate architect. The formal term for people like me now is actually graduate architect, because architect is only for registered people who pass the exam. So mine is basically on the way going for the exam.
That because you fail,
Yeah, I did fail one paper.
Okay, so for those who don't understand, basically architectural degree is divided into part 1, part 2, part 3, right?
Yeah.
And can you just bring the audience through how does it graduate? How does it categorize as graduate ke, professional ke, part 1 ke?
Okay, so basically, say after Form 5, when you graduate SPM, you need to take a pre-U or some sort of matriculation for you to go into degree. So usually bachelor's degree, you need some sort of pre-U to go inside, right? So 3 years of bachelor's degree, it gets you part 1. And then you need to finish another 2 years of master's degree, which is part 2. And then add up 5 years of education, it gets you part 1 and part 2 under the Board of Architects Malaysia. So the university that you go to actually makes a difference as well, because when you graduate, you might not be accredited. Your university might not actually be accredited by LAM. LAM is Lembaga Architect Malaysia.
Okay.
So let's say, for instance, if your university is accredited, means you automatically get your part 1 and part 2.
Oh, so that's what happened to us.
Yeah, that's because we were pioneers, right? Pioneers basically first batch.
We didn't...
We needed to go through a process that we had to go for an interview to get our course accredited. So if you pass the interview, then it's a good thing because you don't need to do extra work.
Oh, so our entire batch needed to go for the...
Basically, our entire batch, if we wanted to practice back here, we had to go through that process because at that time when we took our course, it wasn't accredited yet. Yeah.
So for those listening, right, I dropped out from architecture right after part 1, basically, because so it was a journey when once we all graduated, everybody was so happy because everybody gets to go UK, and we have a lot of classmates who are working in top tiers architectural firms like Foster and Partners, right? So shout out Billy, right? And MC. So they are part of our batch. So it depends again, if you are going to practice in Malaysia, you need to go through certain things.
Yeah.
So part 1 and part 2, after that, then what you need to do, what you're doing, right? What are the processes that you need to go through to get your part 3?
After part 2 is very much practical experience already. So you need to be attached to a registered firm, registered firm under LAM. So everything ties back to LAM because that's the governing body for all the architects in Malaysia. So it's statutory government lah, kind of per se. So a registered firm under LAM, and then you need to work under supervision of a registered architect. So that will be 2 years minimum or 104 weeks.
So it's like a logbook kind of thing.
Yeah. So basically, whatever you learn in the 2 years and whatever you do in the office, it's work already. But you just take this process to fill up your logbook so that you can sit for your registration exam, professional exam. So when you graduate part 2, you're technically a graduate architect. You're not an architect.
Okay.
So in the Architects Act, it's very specific.
Yeah.
So sometimes people call themselves architect, but they don't really have the AR. So that is actually not correct against. It's kind of against the law.
Yeah. It's like ID now. So ID also has a title already.
Yeah,
now.
ID. If you registered with the board, interior designers board, you're actually a registered interior designer.
Yeah.
So you can carry the title IDR. It's like doctor. If you don't have a doctor license, medical license, right? You call yourself a doctor. That's not right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same for architecture because architect is basically a professional in Malaysia. So you need the title to call yourself that.
Then how many papers you need to sit actually for the, like during practice after a logbook, right? Then you need to go through another interview, oral.
Logbook submit, pass. Then you sit for an oral interview test first.
Oh.
Yep. And after you pass the oral, then only you can go for 2 written papers.
Is it tough in your opinion?
It is actually somewhat. I mean, because it's very technical, very book-based. You need to know a lot of statutory stuff, all the bylaws, all the requirements that you need to comply for submission. Basically, it's more on the technical side of it when you sit for the exams.
Yeah, not so much on like what
it
building
doesn't test you on
do.
design. Not really. Not really.
Like isn't that like the main thing? Because after I graduated, right, and I got into developer, that was the first culture shock.
Yeah.
Like when
I think it's the same when we start working because in school it's so ideal, right?
Yeah.
It's all about design, it's all about concept and ideas. But then once you go into work, developer just wants to know what is my ROI.
Yeah, true. Like for me,
how much can I do?
I keep telling people, like people who don't know development, right?
Yeah.
A lot of projects are done on Excel.
What?
Meaning we did the building design, like we somewhat already know the floor efficiency, the running distance, everything, like there's a fixed template to things. And we run the feasibility study on an Excel. So before we want to proceed...
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, before we basically want to go into engagement of an architect, right? We already somewhat know the form of it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I suppose so in some ways.
So provided this is a flat land, a very normal piece of land. If it's like a very odd shaped one or a very complicated site, then it's a whole different story.
I suppose so. I mean, because when a developer goes into a development, right, or wants to go into a development, usually they need to have some sort of data to support whether they should go ahead or not. So probably that's just like a preliminary physi studies kind of thing.
And we spend a lot of time in physics study actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why when we give you guys the brief, they will be like how many...
You already give us like, I just want this, you just do drawing for me, is it?
And if for developers who have design arm or design and planning arm, right, like one of our classmates, right, basically you're just doing the role, you're doing the responsibility of an architect without the title. Right? And they just let you to fine tune the drawings and do the submission and things like that.
Yeah.
All right. So
also.
basically, in my opinion, when we are in school, so I still remember when one of the design crits. So in the end of every semester, we will have a project we need to submit, and we need to present our ideas, and that is the most crucial things. And for several podcasters, right, I tell people that back then, we basically don't sleep for 2 days, 3 days sometimes, just to submit.
That's actually the usual culture, but I normally get to sleep lah.
Yeah lah, you lah, but
Cannot not sleep lah. I feel like
it's very short hours,
yeah, it's
right?
really very short hours because everything just pushes you to the
And usually it's at the end, the final day. Usually we don't sleep, ma. Because printing time also always last minute, ma.
yeah.
Right.
That's
and a lot of people don't believe. People cannot, ma, Sean. Why you planning last minute? You only print your papers on the final hour, like really no time.
Actually, but then if now you think back, right? Why so last minute also we don't understand? Because it just happens like that lah.
No lah, because I think the brain, when we try to finish up the communication for that idea, we were thought of new things.
Yeah.
So there's a never-ending process
Yeah,
to
true. It's a design process.
Yeah.
And design you can always refine and refine and refine and refine.
The greatest impression of her and why I purposely got her in, right? She was one of those 180-degree change students because
Really?
yeah, because in that time, right, you can roughly see who is up for the task and who is not, lah, right? And the first two crits, you cried.
Oh
right?
shit! No, only the first one. Okay, the second one I didn't lah.
You teared a little bit, I think.
I don't remember that, but definitely the first one lah.
Yeah, so in every end of the semester again, they will get external professional architects, right, to come and see the presentation of our ideas.
Well, this like exposing my exposing my shit.
but in that one semester, right, what could we done, right? So it's very, very technical. It's so challenging, and we need to present things that macam yes, I could barely do the rendering. I could barely do the Photoshop work.
More like, what is rendering at that time?
Yeah, don't know what is rendering.
Don't know what is rendering. Just do it.
And Photoshop, like that AutoCAD cannot print out to PDFs now, all JPEG lah. Then you got pixelated things lah. Well, right, all those things, right, when it's so fun to look back because of the model work and things like that, right?
Yep.
What was your greatest misalignment? And like, if there's a lot of great students who are studying architecture right now, right? What would be some words of wisdom coming from a Taika?
Wisdom lah.
No lah. So like, how I wish I knew back then.
I see. I think because the idea of being architect, everyone has, right? It's very glamour. It's very very fancy kind of thing. Like you get to do fancy design and buildings and stuff. But actually, there's a lot of process that comes behind it, where you need to think about a concept. You start with concept, and then you develop your concept into a building. It could be just one word concept.
Yeah.
But somehow it just became a building in the end. So the process of it, the execution, like making the concept and ideas into drawings, and then finally putting everything up into a presentation board. I think the process is something that we need to just tahan lah. Just tahan lah. Because I feel like
it's a process of greed also.
Yeah. Of course, nowadays when you start working and you start doing like actual stuff, then there's a lot of time constraint.
Yep.
So you need to know when to put a stop. It's like when we did design in school, right? There's no stop because you just keep developing new stuff. Oh, this is good. I want to put it in. But at the end of the day, you suffer because you have to print last minute ma.
Yeah.
So I think what I learned throughout these years is when to put a stop to it. Like it can always be developed and become better and better. There's no end to it, definitely. But when is the time to stop and still meet the requirements and the brief?
So the moment I realized this, right, is when Miss V spoke about it. If you stop at a C level idea and you do your communication well, you can present the idea in a B+ format.
Yeah, actually yes, that's true.
Yeah, but if you have a A+ idea, we usually, like one of our classmates, we usually have A++ ideas, but then in the end always cannot finish. Because it's always refining and refining and refining. You cannot let go of that perfect idea, right? And okay, what got you into architecture actually? I never asked you this, after so long.
I actually wanted to be an architect since I was like 10, maybe
Really?
9 or 10. Yeah, actually.
And based on my experience, lah, like in development, in real estate, right? So long, very rare I see female architects, especially project architects. Like that. So for those who don't understand, architects generally is divided into two. One is more involved in the design stage of things, where there's a flat piece of land. What do we do here? The massing, right? Then the concept behind. Then after the client sign off and ready for launch, then this becomes a real thing where we need to build the idea. So usually it's passed over to a different batch of people.
I wouldn't say exactly that because if your company was big enough, then you'll be privileged to have design team, project team.
Oh.
But let's say if you work in a mid-scale, smaller scale company,
you carry all the way.
You just be design and project whatever, so you do lah.
Oh, so are you in those kind of firms?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, I think it's good though when you get to do everything from design to projects until finishing, construction finish, that kind of thing.
So how does a day look like in your everyday life right now? Like as an architect, right? So how does your day look like especially in now like MCO, CMCO days?
MCO days, actually is like that lor. Wake up morning, go to work. Because projects nowadays are slowing down, so we are doing quite a bit of design submission stages. And then for construction, I used to handle a construction project, but then because some financial issues, it didn't go on.
Yeah, that was a really cool one in Malacca, right?
It was massive.
Yeah. When you told me, it was like, wow, you were building a basement below the water level, right?
Sub basement lah,
Yes.
not really basement, but it's basically on reclaimed land lah.
Yeah, so it's on reclaimed land, and you're building a basement.
Small only lah.
So and it's like, to me it's like very cool because small also will flirt one ma.
Small only lah.
Yeah, so I think it's super cool. Then like now all your meetings all still online.
And up to last 2 weeks, it was some physical meetings. But then starting this week, the new MCO thing, not sure yet. Probably online lah.
Then as a architect or a graduate architect, right? What's your challenge as a role doing your job lah?
Wow, a lot like that.
A lot. Because a lot of people would still think that.
Yeah.
Okay,
the glamour side of it, right?
Yeah. That's why the main intention for this episode, right, is to really tell people. That's a reason why I dropped off. Because when I so my start of the story is when I joined a developer firm, I noticed the power difference in dictating what's good for the building. Because ultimately it's a culture thing. I think in Malaysia, right, it's still a culture thing where clients still get a bigger say. Like for our friends in UK, right, they get invitation to design buildings without say one. So when a client wants to change things, right, needs their approval. I'm like, what? Who's paying the bill? And when the client is proposing different materials because we can have some cost saving or whatsoever, we need the architect's approval on things. It's a very different narrative here lah.
Very much different. I think probably it's just an Asian culture thing all this while. Who pay then who say lor. I'm not sure whether it's across the whole country, but I think it's quite common here. So it's not to say bad, but it's just very hard for, say, architects when they do their job because everything that we design, everything that we put in, right, is obviously a process of consideration and a process of compliance with all the bylaws and the acts, because we can't just design anything just because we want to design. And there are certain materials that don't pass because of the bylaws and regulations, that there needs to be a certain standard of materials to when you use it. So I suppose sometimes when the client steps in or the developer wants to have some sort of input, there might be a little bit of conflict where one wants to save costs, but one wants to maintain quality.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's quite common. So it's really how to find a balance in between to kind of still satisfy their intention, but not go against or not comply to what you need to comply.
So for the benefit of the audience, especially like I think in this channel a lot of investors lah, right? So when I mentioned that I think we will be in a bull run, right, for property in these 3 to 5 years, because temporarily there's a shortage of new buildings in the market. Not like now you can like see, oh, there's 1 launch, 2 launch. Okay, so I think 5 fingers enough in the market. Last time was everywhere. Project launches were everywhere. And to get a building up and running, right, ready for launch, right, maybe you can bring us through like when the developer engage you, how long and what are the processes that does it take for a project to be ready or even completed?
Okay, definitely depends on the scale of the building. Let's say developer comes to us with a piece of land, totally empty, and assuming that they already have the title of the land. Otherwise, it's another separate process where you have to convert your this and that stuff. Okay, so assuming that title is already under the developer or the owner, first of all, for us, when we start designing, we actually look at a few things. Like what kind of land is this? Like building, agriculture, or what industrial, depending on what you can do. Because under National Land Code, these are the things that you can do. These are the things that subjected to approval again. So let's say they want to develop, say, service apartment, and it's under industrial title, then you have to go through a process of converting the land back to building, and then you need to go through probably 1 year. That process is really long.
Yeah, very long.
Yeah. So after that, let's say everything's sorted out, we want to move on to planning submission. So planning submission is the first submission that we need to go in so that we can get this development running. Okay, so planning submission, we look at plot ratios, densities, how, like, let's say 5 acres of land, how much can you build on 5 acres? There's always a restriction when under the land title, and because it's all according to the local plan. So local authority will have they already set so this is how much you can build. If you want to build even more, then you have to submit for approval. Yeah, so basically planning submission, or if it's under federal territories, is called development order. So you submit this. Once you get that approved, maybe you can build this much. And it's just very brief at this stage, because it's just they want to see your building height, they want to see how many units. Moving on, then will be building plan. So building plan is where we start to put in all the requirements, bomba requirements, safety requirements, all the engineering requirements, very, very detailed design so that the building actually works. Yeah. So everything has to comply basically all the statutory acts UBBL, Uniform Building Bylaw, everything comes in. Your staircase has to be like, to the extent of all the details are like staircase requirement, your building length, building height, and that kind of thing. So it's very elaborated design during this stage for building plan submission. So once you submit in, probably another 3-4 months to get approved. So planning probably takes about 3-4 months or so.
So after BP, only a developer gets to submit for APDL.
Yeah. And so 6 months, say assuming 3 months, 6 months, then only you can submit for APDL.
APDL takes around 1 month. Okay, it depends on your cable. It depends on also like how close you are with the government body, right? like because I was the guy who is the lobbyist always. So I was mingling around local authorities back then. So I think it's a very safe thing to say, like from raw land, like this is provided you are on board already.
Yeah, provided everything is like
ready to go.
Confirm jalan.
Because I think the main challenge sometimes is developer don't know whether this piece of land can work or not.
Yeah.
And I don't know the limitation or the form, whether how do we do the building and whether can make money or not.
Yeah, actually, a lot of developer they submit to testing test water lah. Then once the approval comes back, they might not want to run. They might not want to develop it yet. So they will just hold on to that. Probably just keep renewing until a point where you cannot renew. Then you decide what to do next.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the reality lah. I suppose.
Because I think the risk, if they were to say, okay, let's go and launch, right? I think the financial risk to them is just way too great lah. So I think from a payment point of view, I think the schedule of payment for architects also divides into different stages.
Yeah.
Right? After design and planning, submit already, then after DO, after BP, right? Then after construction, documentation, tender.
There's actually a very, very fixed scale of minimum fees that should follow one.
Oh, okay.
So let's not go into that because you know these kind of things. I don't know. It doesn't work in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Nobody actually follows
But I
that.
do hope though, like when because ultimately, right, architecture is a profession, and you guys need to maintain your points, right?
Yeah.
What is it? What points is it called?
CPD points.
So you guys still need to attend lectures, go classes, right?
Yeah. So it's continuing development points.
Yeah.
I can't remember what is it called.
I think it's good lah. So it's,
so just to keep you updated and still updated to what is going on because some people, not some people lah, but sometimes when you don't keep yourself updated, right, then you fall back into a lot of things. Especially now when everything is moving so fast, right? Technology lah, materials, even materials have their own technology. So if you don't keep up to date, right, a lot of things that you know will be obsolete. And then once you start putting in your design, then your client will be like, hey, what era are you in? So I think it's a good thing lah, so that people,
I agree though. I agree.
People need to stay up to date lah.
And that's what I was just thinking, right? Back to the topic of the duration, just to get a project launch, right, takes around 9 months, provided that the land is clear, right? The title is all clear. If not, you need to go and amend your conditions lah.
Subdivision or whatever.
Right, yeah. So
many things.
All those being done. The engagement of all the consultants are also being done. So like for public listed companies, then it takes a longer time because we need to call for pitch, right? Then 3 architects come and present the ideas, see who wins the idea and things like that, right? So in total, it's going to take like a year just to get a project launch. And
minimum.
Yeah, minimum.
Probably looks. Yeah.
But I personally
can be faster or not?
Can.
From a developer side.
Can. Because I've seen because these are the developers where before even buying the land, they are almost submitting already. They are ready to submit already. So when the land deal just goes through, they all sure we can submit already. So I've seen a few lah. It's like 6 months. 6
so
months.
Means when they buy the land, all the land issue settle.
Yeah.
No issue at all.
And these are super, and that caught me thinking, like when we have projects that is so design oriented, then we have projects that are just based on math. Most of the time, all commercial developers, all the big boys, right, run a lot of developments based on math. So the building needs to work financially first. However, that compromises the cost issue, and without so much cost, right, then the building form and the perception of audience, like public towards architecture, right, is the form only. Oh, you're building, you built very, very nice building. Oh, wow, so cool. Like that's why when I started the channel, right, when I talk about the number of units per floor, a lot of people like, what do you mean? Is it like the central where you have the lift core in the center type, the most efficient one, that the efficiency you can reach 80% one? Or you want the linear type, then you have the single loaded corridor, double loading corridor. Then all those kind of things plays a big role in determining the form of the building.
And definitely. Yeah.
But just that a lot of people don't appreciate that.
Yeah, I think maybe it's because just Malaysia, for example, everywhere you go, basically, building
buildings
looks the same. Because it's all about efficiency. Here, the culture is just so that it's more. The building has to be efficient, so I can maximize my ROI. There's always the intention, and when these numbers are set, then there will be very little. I mean, I won't say no room for design and exploring this kind of different forms and stuff, but it could be quite limited because this is the most efficient that you're gonna get. If you start to pull things apart, you start to shift things up and down, then it will affect your data.
Yeah.
And that's where people start to say, it's okay lah. Let's go back to what we had lah.
Then, okay, what's your idea of a well-designed building?
Ideally, a space that functions well, but also there will be some elements that has this experience. Like it gives you a certain experience when you're standing in that space. Like it could be in the form of materials, it could be in the form of angles or walls that direct you to look at something or point at something. So more like the experience when you're in the space.
Yeah. My interpretation, right, differed a little bit after visiting like 300 buildings. Because whatever things that I thought was cool back then, right, has no correlation with the property price.
Yeah.
Like buildings that architects would love, like for some in Sentul, some around Cheras, right, for they're super nice, and I think it's very bold to pull off such a design move. End up the sub-sale price.
Actually, I think I can agree with that in somehow because probably because people don't really appreciate design, or maybe they just had this some kind of back of their head. This is a good design already. Like every apartment is a good design because come out from lift, go inside the house, that's it. As long as the unit works for them, they don't really engage in the surroundings so much. Because the buildings here are designed in that sense where they just draw you back to your unit, stop there, then whatever you do in your unit is it's just you already.
So that created this culture where the tower of the building. So I always describe buildings in like a cake. So there will be either a basement car park, multi-level car park, then the podium for facilities. Then you have how many towers? 3 tower, 2 tower, 1 tower.
But that's for high rise lah.
Yeah, for high rise
lah.
So I think we stop by high rises because that's a math or science to get an efficient building, right? And if you shift anything in a building, right, it will become
maybe less efficient.
Yeah. So because of the towers become so good, and a lot of people only look at the layout of the building, or of their house only. They don't look at floor plate. They don't see where are the voids. They don't see where is the sunlight coming in, the experience of the lobby, the location of the refuse chamber. I think a lot of architects put a lot of thoughts to the refuse chamber, but no one just cares. Right?
Yeah, actually it's true. I mean, like logic thoughts are like you won't want to purposely face a refuse chamber in front of people's house, right?
Yeah.
But I think people don't realize that maybe. But when the refuse is facing your unit, then you realize that.
Yes.
And then they will start cursing the architect. Who the hell so stupid go and do that?
Yeah. And then which very cunning. And then you have 14 neighbors, right? Everybody go and slam the door once.
Yeah.
After dinner. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions, right? Brick tanks. Like what are the treatments of the brick tanks, like levels? Like a lot of people concern is like the unit below the brick tank.
Yeah.
So water will leak or not? So what you guys usually do for the brick tank level?
Definitely we will raise up lah. And after that, waterproofing. Definitely waterproofing.
Do you guys is double slab a common treatment?
For brake tanks, not really.
For the water tanks, fire tanks?
Not really.
Not really also?
Not really.
So is that...
Once you raise up and then you have like a floor trap to collect whatever leaking water. And then if your waterproofing is working, it should be still okay lah.
Okay, so for those who don't understand, meaning if this is the water tank, you're raising it up in a platform kind of thing. So if there's leakages, at least there's still places to flow out from the unit, right?
Yeah.
So don't worry. And for pump rooms, like the vibration kind of thing, what are the usual treatments for?
Sometimes the slab will be thicker, so that just to absorb all the vibration that transfer down. But usually pump room is downstairs, no?
Yeah. So all of it,
it's not affected lah. Pump rooms we usually will put it like basement or not directly next to units.
Cool.
Yeah.
Then because a lot of questions I receive a lot of these kind of questions like a weekly basis.
I see. Interesting.
Then personally I would when there's this is my thought lah, when I buy, right, the tenant wouldn't know whether on top is a brick tank or not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so
probably not.
That is a good thing for me because it that reduces the burden of them calling me, hey, my upstairs neighbor very luan, very noisy, every day dung 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 dung, then drag the chair lah, this lah, that lah. So because there's no people ma.
Yep.
And because usually also I've seen certain specs where it's double slab for things like that, then no vibration, then no water sound and things like that. So I think it's brilliant. Then for units at that level, usually level 14 they will put brick tank, right?
Height lah, depends on height lah.
So at that level, there's less people in that floor.
Because of the 14.
14, then a lot of people put brick tanks there.
Oh.
Then because of that, then a lot of people will not want that floor. So I'm buying at a cheaper price. But if I were to rent out again to tenants, right? Tenants wouldn't care. Like this one next to... No one asks this kind of thing. Yeah. Only an owner will ask. Like a person who's buying. And cool. So because all of that, right, then revolves into these conversations that I'm very passionate about, where a lot of professionals, when they design buildings, right, superb. But when it comes to their first home, right? So like you shared recently, you just bought a first home, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
What kind of project is it? Is it a new or a...
It's a new project actually. So every time I pass by also I can see lah. Quite nice to see lah. I mean, like, I'm in this industry, but then when you see your own house going up, quite nice also lah, the feeling.
Yeah, so I want to talk about this. Like for normal people who buy a house, then they go to the site, right? Like they understand.
As if they understand, you see.
But for you would know everything what's going on.
Yeah.
So what's that feeling, and like, does the knowledge of being an architect, right, being in this industry helps?
You know, the first thing I think about every time I pass by, right? Like because I can somewhat see my unit, right? So the first thing I think about, I paid this, but then like doesn't tally lah, like stage payment and all the stuff. So because under the HDA schedule, there's I think this applies for everybody, because there will be different stages of completion. Then the bank will release money ma. So starting from foundation, car park, and then moving up your door, window, and everything. So for me, whenever I receive these the payments that I need to pay, right, then I will just hold on to it for a while, like maybe 1 week like that. So I just go and pretend and pass by my unit and see whether it's actually done or not. Because I think, I don't know whether it's a common practice for developers. They don't give images of the completed unit, right? Yeah, so
it will be hell, man. It's so difficult. Let's say if there's 1,000 units, habis lah.
Yeah, I mean, people buy house ma, they want to be...
Okay, I shouldn't be complaining.
They want to be assured whether something is completed, then only they start paying ma.
That should be a good practice though. I attach with a drone shot, it would be so cool, right?
Yeah. So like the one that I bought, they actually give like regular updates with drone images of the status. So okay lah, can lah.
But what got you into the decision of buying? Like you bought when you bought this property?
I bought it 2 years ago.
2 years ago. 2 years ago, and the project is in PJ, and it's a very familiar project of mine. And okay, so what got you into choosing the property? Okay, let's rewind a bit. What got you deciding that you need a property? What got you choosing this property? And because I just find it very fascinating, like how would an architect buy a property?
I actually don't know leh.
Right?
I mean, like the first. Why did I wanted to buy a property?
Was it?
I suppose probably. I don't know leh. Actually, about time I guess.
And you buy it under your own name lah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is something that I really encourage girls to do.
No share, break up then mati.
Yes.
Seriously, don't share. Until you are married or something, then okay lah. But because I've seen firsthand, so it's very messy lah.
Oh, you have friends? Is it a common friend?
Not common friend lah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I've seen firsthand lah. It could be quite a bit.
Yeah.
If you break up, okay, like mutual breakup, then okay lah.
Good terms.
Yeah, good terms, and all this not so bad. But then if you
ugly breakup, then
shit, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
girls, don't do that. Don't be so stupid.
Yes. Okay, so you just thought that okay, time was up, then I just get one lah, since I can afford. And it was close to home, right?
Yeah, because I'm from Subang ma, so kind of close. And I'm more familiar with the area, so probably familiarity lah.
But you don't look into like all the rules, sub-sales and all those kind of. Is it for what's the intention of the property?
The intention stay lor.
Or for your own stay lah. Okay lah.
I suppose because sub-sale, the upfront cost is too much So I wasn't at a financial status that I could just upfront pay so much for sub-sale. I mean, I would like to, but then maybe not yet lah. Yeah.
So you bought 2 years back. Okay. This is the one with the very fancy facility deck one.
Yeah, it's called what, Lazy River.
That's a Lazy River. For those who can figure it out, right? I think it's a not bad project, but it's overpriced. And the sucky part about that project, right? Because I know a lot of friends who's running that project. 50% Bumi allocation.
Wow, really? Because of the location?
Yeah, I think it's some restriction to the land because they got the land in a pretty challenging manner, right? So it means block A and B, one entire block belongs to Bumi. So and there's nothing wrong, and I don't like despite why give so much Bumi. Actually, even Bumi people don't want to buy Bumi lots one because it's so difficult to release, and it just doesn't make sense financially, right? And so a lot of Malay investors or friends, right, come to me, hey Sean, whatever you say is true, right? And yeah, so it will be a very difficult time for their marketing team when they get the Bumi units lifted. It means that after the buildings is completed, I'll need to advertise in 3 to 4 different Malay language newspaper. Then I will need to appeal again. Hey, I advertise, nobody buy. Then can I lift off? Then after I lift it up, then only I'll pay a penalty. Not penalty lah. I'll pay the premium.
Okay.
So then they will release it as an international unit or free market again for other people to buy.
But that's like another long process, right?
Yeah. So until then, the shortcoming is if you have projects like this, you go into the house, right? It's very difficult to feel the presence of humans. It's gonna be very cold, no people on the whole building.
Good Not good meh?
So it's only good until you need to form GMB.
Yeah.
And it's only so like now majority all still held by the developer, and this developer actually not bad lah. Their GMB processes. So
good to know.
Yeah, and this is something that I really want to highlight as well. Like, as there's no correlations between building experts versus investment experts. Like, I don't mean to diss or don't mean to disrespect, but it's a very different category altogether. Like a lot of architects, right? Then they are super good in designing, like super well thought buildings and this and that, right? The location is just a bad one. Then it's not a very good thing. So, but then we have super locations with sucky products.
Don't say sucky lah. Decent.
No, because these are templates.
Oh, but yeah. Well, it's not sucky lah, because it works ma. That's why template lor.
Okay.
Not so fancy.
Okay,
not so fancy.
So my
stuff
bad. Let me rephrase. Not so decent. Okay, so the main reason is because I've seen too many buildings, right, where it's the exact same layout, right? So then, what's your thought, right? In like now, it's a trend where I've seen like this particular developer is just multiplying their projects. So I think they are trying to clear land or whatsoever. And their land are in superb locations. Just that the layout, right? It's the exact same layout. What's your thought? Like,
Well, because in school we're always taught to design according to the site, and because it's a design process that starts from the site itself. So usually the ideal way would be responding to what is around you. So let's say you have lots of
you've got lake, then the vista will be dictating the direction.
And probably not even so far towards that kind of thing, but more like
the access,
your roads, your what is existing shop lots or housing, and everything like that. So those are the things that we need to think about. And then if you just put a template onto a site, you don't need architect lah. You just need the architect to submit. Yeah. Which is not good lor.
Yeah, so that's exactly my thought. Yeah. Like there's no soul in the building, right? So when I go into the building, like I already know what's happening and this, that, all. So yeah, but it makes a lot of sense financially. Like the design fee, most likely I'm going to negotiate with you. Okay, you know what? You just submit this another building. You know what? We just settle 30 like that. Then it's
yeah lor. That's why it became a culture where client says all lor, client tai sai lor, and consultants, professionals like us, secondary lah, I suppose.
Then okay, if you were to be given another chance, right? Like now, you go back to that day you want to register for the architectural course. Would you still study architecture?
I think I would, but I won't practice in Malaysia lah.
Oh.
Because
your part 2 you did where? RMIT?
I did in Melbourne ma.
RMIT, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you fancy. To build the school there is so nice.
The building is fancy lah.
The building is fancy. Okay, I don't know about anything inside. Yeah, so yeah, because that was a goal of mine actually, like to go Australia, to go with you guys, right? Wow, it'd be so cool. But anyway, back to your answer, like you would go back.
I would still do architecture because I feel I enjoy the process. I enjoy the outcome. Although I mean, obviously every job has their own challenges, and then every job you have to deal with people, right? So once you deal with people, you just need to adapt, I feel. But whether to practice in Malaysia, that is something that I might rethink. If it's in Malaysia, it's not to say not good also lah, because we get like massive development, so you get the more mathematical side of it, I suppose, like data. I mean, like you see how big developers want to develop many units and stuff. But if you do it overseas, it could be a bit more design oriented. So two different scenarios. You want to do design or you want to do like massive projects. And there's a lot of complications that comes with all these massive projects. So I think both also okay. Just depends how you want to take it as a professional.
Like based on the projects that you're receiving, right? Is there a trend of changing, or is still dictated by figures and numbers?
Depends really.
So it still depends.
It still depends because I believe there will be some
boutique
developers, or maybe even small landowners. They're not even a developer. They want to do something, and they want to do something more thoughtful and less conventional, like where you put everything and get just what you want.
And it's a sad thing, like for me, when I visit buildings,
Quite sad. I see all your buildings all high rise, right? When you visit.
Yeah, so that's why.
Same je.
Yeah, that's why. And now I'm like trying to branch out to landed. So I've been visiting these mansions, like these old bungalows, bungalows going to torn down already, but 6-7 million. But then you have a mansion that is 80 million, but I don't know what is going on. Yeah, so all this, then I think it adds a different perspective. So it widens the spectrum for our audience, right?
Yeah.
Like there are things out there like a well thought through townhouse. But too bad it's in a very far location.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are, until now, I don't see like premium designs done in a very well location. Even if they have, so it will cost a bomb.
Costs a lot. That's
yeah,
why.
It will cost a bomb. So I think that's also part of the main reasons why it's not existent.
But Malaysia property market is very inflated, right?
No lah.
Is it?
It depends.
City centre.
It depends on yeah. So I it's not a good. It's not accurately thing to say as a blanket statement, but it should be micro. Like if you say like in this particular location of the office, right? So Mont Kiara, when you say it's inflated, the rental rates are still going super strong. But you go into Cyberjaya, it's so loose. It's and I think it's an exact example when you see like Mont Kiara, the condos, right, all almost the same. But you look at Cyberjaya, wow, the buildings are superb, but still no rental.
True.
Yeah. So and from a person of passion for architecture, right? I like design. I like to see thoughts expressed in the building form, right? It has no correlation. Then when I go into the building, the swimming pool, how they did it, the material they curve it and things like that. But no one want to stay because it's not. Yeah, so it's a very like how I wish kind of thing lah. So in Cyberjaya, I like Cyberjaya a lot in terms of the architecture building. The skyline there is amazing. You see a lot of very fancy buildings, and the parks are crazy big, huge. Lakes amazing.
So sparse, right? Everything.
Yeah, and the infra, the road, shoulders, and things like wow, all done really well. Nobody want to go.
Yeah.
Then here, Peck and Deal, people still come, and you see like in this junction itself, there's like 6 new buildings. You close one eye, another 10,000 units.
Yeah.
And and the thing is, like, as an investor, I'm still buying here.
Yeah.
Because of the rental.
And also because it's established township.
Yeah.
Everything is just here already. So like that lor. Reality lor.
So any thoughts on your next purchase or investment and things like that?
Not really actually. I wasn't not really on the path to invest in properties just yet.
Not yet lah.
Nah.
And okay, one weird question. This is like off the hook, right?
Of architecture, totally wrong, is it?
How did you find the time to be a trainer?
Oh.
As an architect, right? To me, if I know my architect back then had time to be a trainer, right? You're not working hard enough. Well, it's very inhuman to say that, but
I think I give people the impression that I'm very tahan like no stress like that.
Yeah.
But I think really it's just about balancing what you do. Because you can't dedicate 24 hours to architecture ma. It's life, right? So you need to do something that you like.
So what classes are you coaching right now?
I actually teach Les Mills classes. So group exercises where you go to the gym, everybody in the class doing like all that stuff.
Then you got a thing there.
Yeah.
One, two,
yeah, basically that. It's very music based. So I think music is the one that got me into it. Because when you work out to music, it's like a lot of endorphins, adrenaline and stuff. We can sing along.
Yeah. And okay, I gotta say, right, I was super impressed when you did that promo video.
Oh, wow.
when you need to hop and you need to clap across your legs. Stuff.
Okay.
Oh, then like, whoa. Again, because I know you back then.
I was so bad, right?
You were so petite. And then every time go to site visit, you were the one complaining like hot lah.
I still do that actually.
And so it's very hard to imagine that now you are like this tough girl that I don't want to meet in the gym. And because personally I do CrossFit.
Yeah.
So it's a very different pathway.
It is, yeah. That is something I want to try one day.
Hey, come on.
But I feel very expensive lah.
No lah, got free trial.
Got discount, right?
Got I don't own the gym also.
Yeah,
but,
I wanted to try the one that you're going.
But I think CrossFit is it's a
skill.
Yeah, a lot of skill.
A lot of skill.
And when, I think your endurance part will quite easy actually. But then it's the skill.
Yeah.
And the tough part is when you have 100 reps, 200 reps. Like for example, like the box jump that we do, when you jump on a 24 inch, I think for girls it's 24 inch. You jump on a box, right, like 100 times a set,
Yeah.
Then it's that focus and it's really testing your endurance.
Yeah.
Because like in class, I'm not to this, but you can just stand and do the movement, right? On how dedicated you want to do the movement, it's up to you. But when you miss that...
Well, yeah, somehow yes, because some people actually go to classes for the music and the friends.
Yeah. Then so this usually happens to me when I jump on the box, right? I miss and it hits my shins.
I know how that feels. Oh my god.
And our box, because budget constraints, like it's not those fancy rubber.
The wood one, right?
I want the wood one.
But the wood one is better, no meh?
Better actually. So it reminds you to not jump chin chai lah.
Yeah.
Then
don't screw up your jump, man.
And then the bar work, a lot of gymnastic work.
Yeah.
So your upper body. So for me, like I can squat heavy because my lower body is strong. But then it's a not so good side if I need to do a lot of pull-ups. Yeah, so
actually that's something I want to get into one day probably. Because there's a lot of skills and
you don't do weightlifting, huh?
I do, but not to the extent like
not
how
like
you do
Olympic squats.
A bit lah.
Snatching, all those.
I do it a bit lah. Cleans and squats, front squat and stuff.
I think that one.
High pulls. Yeah, got lah. But that is something for another day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's about it. And in this episode, right, I know this is like a very chill session because I thought like to take it easy a little bit after speaking to multiple experts, right? And I got in my classmate, which is also the same person. We intern in the same office. And to see that drastic improvement, right? I don't know what happened in Australia.
Oh, lots.
but it's a real eye-opening, and I always came from an envious perspective. Yeah. Like you guys get to go overseas, then me in Malaysia slacking as an agent, closing deals, right? But then only I discovered I still love architecture. That's why I still drill into spatial layouts, like detailings and things like that. But it's just very sad to see there's a gap in the market and the profession where it doesn't gel together. Like audience do not understand great designs is also expressed in a very effective layout. A great, easy to maintain, easy to maneuver layout in the house, right? It's a great design.
Yep.
You need not to have fancy LED lightings across the building.
Yeah.
You don't need to have like fancy lobbies. I think lobby is two double height enough. So they put 4-story. Welcome. They're not hotel.
Maintenance is gonna be crazy, man.
Yeah. So I always want to have that balance. Then there are certain statement pieces that a lot of developers do, which I don't think it's reflecting in the sub-sale market as well. So don't dwell into forms and designs. Like back then, like I still remember when we were Sem 1, right, semester 1. We only look at fancy buildings in like, you look at the facade. You look.
Well, actually, it's because all the lighting very nice. So photo also very nice.
Yeah.
So you'll be like, wow, this one very nice. I want copy.
Copy them, you design them. When you really see it on the space, then you're like,
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's all. And this is a very selfish episode of mine because I just want to get that out of the way because a lot of people don't understand, and I wish everybody understand actually, that the importance of architecture is not only on aesthetics.
Yep.
But then maybe for another day, I hope that you can pass your part 3. Then you get when you come back, right, you have a AR Miss Rachel. Wow.
AR no need Miss Rachel already. Like AR Rachel.
AR Rachel. Yeah. Wow. AR Rachel Low or Lau?
Lau.
Or Rachel Lau. Okay. AR Lau. Whoa, that would be so cool.
Fingers crossed to that.
When's your paper?
I don't know. They postponed the exam.
Oh, okay.
So probably September.
So when you come back, then maybe you can share like how you got the papers and things like that. What's your plans? And I will look forward to your next design work, and I shall look forward to you come to our box as well to do CrossFit.
Yeah. That one probably can happen sooner.
Yeah. So I think that's all. Thank you very much for watching. And if you really like this episode, right, like it, share it, and even subscribe. See you guys on the next one. Stay safe. Ciao.